Who the hell are you?
You know. You all know exactly who I am. Now, say my name.
Hey, Mr. White.
I did not realize that was Mr. White back there.
Mr. White?
My name is Mr. White, here to see you.
Mr. White?
Mr. Popular. Right here? How you
Mr. White?
doing, Mr. White?
What's going on, Mr. White? You back?
I said, Mr. White.
Mr. White? Okay, the mayor said he will meet with you.
With it. Huh? Mr. White back there, right? America first.
Mr. White.
My name is Mr. White.
Mr. White? How you doing today, Mr. Sexton?
Mr. White.
Hello.
You Mr. White?
Mr. White.
You're the man, baby, right?
You're damn right.
Yeah, Mr. White.
What's up, America? It's your favorite Monday morning quarterback, Mr. White, here today with Byron Lyons, Polk County Sheriff. Let's see what he has to say.
I tell you, really appreciate you coming up and talking with me. My biggest thing right now is trying to build, relationships with the community. Unfortunately, so many things that have been done. Not, and most of the things that you see that are taking place, stuff that's happening upstate. These officers who are, being caught in misconduct, and but all of us are having to pay for it. And then you have these other situations where we got away from community policing, when that's what it should have always been about was, community policing. And basically my concept of that is that we're all working together.
Right.
And you can't work together with a community or an individual unless you are building or working on trying to build relationships. And so that, from start one, that's been my whole goal. Some people think some of the stuff I'm doing is a little unorthodox, not kind of fun to some of the things that I'm doing, but I want to do what I can to try to build back relationships with the community. If the community doesn't trust their law enforcement, then it becomes useless. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's just my feeling. Somebody else may feel different, but we cannot be effective without the help of the community.
You gotta have the support.
You gotta have it. We have to work hand in hand, and you can't build trust or have someone have trust in you unless there's some type of relationship. Mm-hmm. And so that's been one of my goals. Everything from the Easter egg hunts to the movie nights for the kids, Christmas, movies, Halloween trunk or treats. Mm-hmm. Those things that were done, and even with those, when we do those things, we were trying to focus around, the inmates who have kids out there that could be able to come up here and do trunk or treat, or those CPS children, or children who have been victims of crimes, mm-hmm. to where they can come up and see law enforcement, or just the kids in the community can come up and interact with the law enforcement to know that we're your friends, we're not the adversary, we're not the enemy. I've always heard parents say, if you don't stop, I'm going to call the police on you. I'm going to get that policeman to get you. And to them, they didn't mean anything by it, but really it sends a strong message.
It puts a little,
yeah. And so I want to do my little bit. Like I say, I told myself it's just one kid at a time, one community at a time, for as long as God gives me grace to be here as sheriff or just be here on earth. I want to do what I can, one at a time, to try to build back the relationships between public safety and the communities. It takes some time. It's not going to happen overnight because it didn't falter overnight. So, but I think in the long run, if we just plant the seed, God will give it the increase. And so that's kind of what I've been doing. Even with the prayer, on Thursday morning at 7 o'clock, just anybody wants to come out and we have prayer, and the prayers for the community is for, law enforcement, it's for our inmates, it's for our country, just to have prayer. And if you don't, then no big deal, but it's just something that has always resonated in me since, from childbirth. We grew up in prayer,
Yeah.
You know,
Used to do it every morning before school, and now
yeah, you know, now it's becoming the forbidden taboo, and you know, and I'm not judging anybody. That's, you know, your belief, what you want to believe in, but it's just one of mine, and those who want to be a part of it, everybody's invited. You know, I don't know, like I say, just my little small way of hoping to be able to bring about change.
And what time does it start on Thursday morning?
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock.
Because we want to do it before the
Yeah.
office opens. Everybody has opportunity. They can come in and have prayer. We meet at 7. Prayer starts at 7:15. By 7:20, 25, we're gone. That way, no one's here. You know, it's not blocking driveways or anything for the office to open. And those who need to get to work on time, they still have the opportunity to be able to get to work on time. But still, like I say, I want to be able to bring back God into our lives. You know,
Yeah.
it makes some people mad when I say that, but I don't know, just my little part. You know.
Yeah. Well, and even if, you know, except for maybe atheists,
Yeah.
everybody else believes in some kind of higher
Yeah.
power, you know,
Yeah.
so you could still, you know, participate on Thursdays and
Yeah,
not.
but regardless of what you believe in,
Yeah.
if you know, my thing is Kelly, perfectly how you said that is that if whether you're atheist or you believe in some kind of higher power, but if we be able to come together in solidarity about one, you know, if there's nothing we'll come to solidarity about, we wanting peace, or we wanting there to be relationships between our law enforcement and our communities, but we want to make sure that we have safe jails. You know, we just come and have a show of solidarity, whether or not you want to call it in God's name, or if you just want to say it's in your higher power name. We just need to come together in solidarity and try to cut out so much of this division. Man, it's just, I've never in my life seen it so divided, and there's always going to be division, but there's hatred.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that scares me, because when there's this type of hatred, sometimes hatred will drive people to do things that they wouldn't normally do. And so, you know, my little piece of the way of trying to change things. I don't know. I just got to believe that it's a mission that God has put me on. And then if I just stay faithful to it, if it's one person, two persons, then, like I said, God will give it the increase. As long as the message is being pushed. Yeah.
I've noticed there's been since you've taken over, it's been a huge change from,
You know,
even though it's been little things here and there, it's been,
you know, and please believe me when I say I'm humbled at that, but it's not about me. I think that we all have good in us. I think that there's good on both sides, regardless of what side you're on. I just think that we just have to give good that opportunity to show. Sometime, and I was in school up in Virginia a month. Well, anyway, I was in school in Virginia. I got chosen to go to, in one of the classes we were talking about that a roundabout way. And one of the things one of the guys brought out that I thought was so interesting is that there's good in all of us. You just have to be able to have somebody who's willing to be open enough to show good. And then you be surprised about how if you open up and show good, that how it will transcend and go just around the table, and people just will open up. Strangers, I mean, this class was 26 sheriffs from all over the country. None of us knew each other when we walked in the door, so everybody sat down at at your perspective table, and no one knew anyone. And by the end of that first hour, from the little test that they had, or the little how they did the little technique about getting everyone to introduce themselves, and before you knew it, everybody at their tables, man, were laughing and cutting up, and they found what they had, certain things that they had in common. But you have to have that opportunity to show good, and you'd be surprised, even though you come from different parts of the country and all different types of makeups, social and racial, you come from all different makeups, but you were able to show good, and all that other stuff got left behind.
yeah.
And so that's what I want to do. I mean, I want to be, I guess, a catalyst to try to say, hey, look, if I show good, come on up here and join me, and let's show good, and then maybe the next person, and then go from this community to that community, and then people will just hold on to that. I hope. It may sound a little simple, but
The biggest changes come from simple ideas.
yeah, I mean, my prayer is just praying God give me strength and direction. I'm certainly by no way means perfect. I've had my faults. I've had and still have my faults. I'm human. I'm flesh, just like everybody else. We all make mistakes. But I'm just hoping and praying that people will start coming together and start remembering it's not about us. You know, there's a bigger challenge. I got a jail, 200 and some odd inmates down there that I want to see do something to break the recidivism where they're not repeat offenders. Can we start a GED program is one of the things I'm trying to push now. If we can sometimes if you just help people build pride in themselves, that little thing like that will help turn things around.
Are you allowing church service again?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
We've been having church services. I'm trying to remember they meet on Thursdays. They got 2 nights that they meet. Plus now I'm starting a ministers alliance to where we having a group of ministers where we're starting to meet, getting them together. That's been kind of a challenge, but because what I want to be able to do is that they have church services at night, but what I want to do with the ministers alliance is that. So sometimes when you're sitting down there, somebody is there and they're having, they need somebody to talk to, just some little counseling, some spiritual counseling. Then I'll have a group of these guys, and what they're going to do is that they'll have certain days that each one of them will say, okay, I'll take this day and you'll take that day.
Kind of like on call.
Yeah, and then we'll tell those the guys and say, hey, listen, if you want to talk to spiritual counseling, that's my talk to. Just send up the request. These are the days, or these are the times during these days that they'll be available, and be able to have those guys, be able to have somebody to talk to. Church is good. I love it, but a lot of times people don't want to open up in front of other, especially they sellers. They don't want to open in front of them. So being able to afford them an opportunity to be able to have someone one-on-one that they be able to talk to, and then hopefully when they leave here, that they'll leave here and say, hey, look, I want to go over and come go to church with you. Or that preacher or that minister be able to say, hey, look, I got a friend, he has a church over here. I think you may love it over there. Why don't you go visit? Wherever you decide to go, but if we can just start opening up, some communications and exposing, people to a difference, something different in life, because everybody seems to think that if someone's a drug addict, they want to be a drug addict. If someone is in jail, they're there because they want it. It's not always just that. It's sometimes some people just they can't see a way out. Sometimes people can't, they just need somebody to direct them to something higher. Hey, I've tried to kick this and I've tried to do this. Well, hey, let's point you to God. You've tried these other things. Let's give God a shot. And then I think if we start opening up and doing things like that, I think it'll make a difference. If it's just one, if it stops one from coming back, then it was worth it. I don't care how many more, but if it's just one, then it was worth it. So I don't know. So
I like that idea.
It was what saved me. When I was out there, doing the things I used to drink horribly. I was a bad drinker, and I couldn't quit on my own. It was God, man. When I decided to get sincere with God, then God got sincere with me, and He took that away from me. And I know if He'll do it for me, then He'll do it for anybody else, regardless of wherever your prospective place is. He'll do it for you as well, regardless of whatever it may be. So that's why I'm just a true believer in it, that I know if you expose yourself and you give someone an opportunity, and then they invite God in, I know He will, because He did it for me. And so it's just wanting to do something different.
Yeah, and I've seen Him help quite a few people that a lot of people gave up on, and they just turned around and...
Yeah, well, we spend so much time trying to please people. And even sometimes we find ourselves trying to we put ourselves in positions that even we know ourselves that we're not ready to be in. You know, and I say that we're not ready to be in this spot right here, but with God, God can prepare us and anoint us for this and even higher. And so I try to tell people, stop being, well, I promise you, Sheriff, I'm not coming back. You won't see me back up here again. Man, don't make that promise to me, but make that promise to you, and then ask God to help you to be able to keep that promise. That's for you. It's not for me. And you know, and I try to tell those guys, because when you try to please someone else, man, it's sometimes people's expectations of other people. It's always amazing. They expect a whole lot out of you, but a whole lot less out of themselves. And so I tell people, you stop expecting, trying to please other people, because people are always going to place you or want you to do more than what you're able to do. But if you give God a shot, start pleasing yourself, and ask God to help you, I think that the outcome will be a lot different. I just believe that. I believe that. And so that's the Citizens Academy. That's one of the things is I'm hoping to build, and it's not always just about the citizens as it is with the law enforcement.
Yeah.
Is that bringing them in and putting them together, let them, sometimes law enforcement got to the point to where everything was tactical, when really what we do in our profession, the tactics of it is probably 15% or even less.
Yeah.
And so, but the communication, the interaction is probably 85% or more. And so I see the difference in guys when we have the community come up, whether it's in the academy or those officers are able to sit and talk with them and talk about how academies work and what they had to go through, and then help them go through some of and short snippets of what the academy is actually like. You see the change, and you start seeing the officers even how they're starting to think, and then how they come out and they communicate with the public. It changes. If all you're doing is training tactics, then you can't be shocked when all you get is tactics from an individual. But if you bringing the guy out, you training or you exposing him to just plain old interaction, relationship building. I call it awareness, community awareness, being able to talk to the community about, I need you to be aware of this, and these are some of the things that you can do to avoid these type of scams and problems. Then everybody benefits, even the law enforcement.
Yeah.
That old saying that you can't teach an old dog new tricks, that's wrong. I believe in my heart that even with my officers is that when you start exposing them to being able to communicate on a degree other than going out on a call or something that's dealing with law enforcement, when you expose them to that, then that transcends, then it follows them as they go out and they start dealing with people on a day-to-day basis. And then when you deal with somebody from a certain community that's part of the academy, then you've got now an advocate in that community that you can go to and say, hey, look, we've been having a problem down the street at this location. Do you know those folks? Can you help me to be able to try to talk with them, or can you tell me what will work better? Because we've got to get into this. I try to say we've got to get ourselves in this frame of mind where we have to do this together. Law enforcement can't be the fix-all for the problems within the community, but if we work together and not be afraid to say, hey, look, can you help me with how can I reach this person? How can I get them to understand? You may be surprised with the person that these advocates in these different communities can help you with. And so I think that if we start doing things like that, and not just make it a one-time event where we do things in the community, we bring communities together, and then we'll be shocked that really we actually think a lot on the same lines. We may differ on a few things, but the big picture is that we really all want our streets safe. We want our children to be able to go to school and come home safely, and we want to be able to trust our law enforcement. And heck, we all want that. I want that for my family, just like the next person wants it for theirs. And so I think working together, we all can be able to try to at least work towards that common denominator.
Right.
My little belief. Like I say, sometimes it's a little simple, but I'm hoping that my little part will help bring a change.
And I've noticed that I've talked to a lot of new officers, and they say that the academy when you're going through it, it's a lot of us versus them.
Yeah.
And that's just a dangerous mindset to come out of.
So, you know, I tell those guys a lot of time when you go to the academy is going to teach you the things that the state or that T code says that you need to know this, you need to know that, you have to have a degree of this or that. I say when you get that, and you pass that state test, and you come out of that, you come here, forget all of that. Now we want to teach you how to go out and work in your communities, how you go out and help, you know, police the areas, you know, that you've been assigned. And that's that thing. If you have that mindset, it's us against them, then you can't expect.
You'll make that.
And that's exactly, because that's your mind frame. And that's why my thing has been pushing and preaching is that we have to build relationships. We come together and we are building a partnership, and we do it together. I'll be honest, I can't go out and make everybody's community perfect, or I can't even make it safe without their help, because someone has to first call. Someone else has to be willing to help initiate. And then even with that, then someone has to be able to say, hey, look, I know them people. Hey, you know, maybe if you can do this, you know, and sometimes just having that understanding, you know, they're really not a bad person, but they've had this going in their life, or they're really not a bad person, but they got this happening. And when you have that type of background, it helps you to be able to help how to go approach these people. And so, yeah, I guess you would say it's a method to the madness, but that's my whole thing. We build partnerships and quit, like you say, get away from that us against them. It's us.
Yeah.
You know, it's us. And we've got to get back to the community policing, and where we're building partnerships within our communities so that we can help, so they can help us help them.
Yeah, because communities just getting bigger and bigger.
You know, that's the one thing that I worry about in our community. I've been here all my life, and some changes I see or have seen I thought I'd never see in Polk County or Livingston. Change is good, but you know, with change, with growth, there's always that little scaredness of uncertainty, because you know, good things come and things build and populations stretch, but with those things come, you know,
the growing pains.
And those are the things that I worry about, is that I'm trying to develop a 3-year plan to hopefully be able to help our county government to be able to see into 3 years of what we are projecting, where we need to be in 3 years to help us to keep up with the growth of the county. Because there are going to be some growing pains, some serious growing pains, and if you don't keep up with them, it's
away from you.
Yeah, it's hard to catch up with stuff that you let get ahead of you. But if you just kind of keep up with it, you know, at a decent pace, then a lot of times it's manageable. But once you let it get so far ahead of you, man, it's costly, and it's demanding trying to manage it at that point. But I'm looking, kind of like I said, I'm looking forward to the change. I just want to make sure that we're ready for the change. You know, at least we're trying our best to manage it as it does progress.
Do I have to say, with the exception of the one issue with cabinets?
Oh yes,
except with that one, I mean, every one of your deputies that I've had an interaction with have been great.
Been good. Well, thank you. That's good. I'm definitely glad to hear.
Sexton, he's a great advocate. Being there, and you know, he's probably, because he probably interacts the most with the public, probably the best person you got there.
Yeah, Sexton is he is a key advocate for me. One of the things with Sexton, because he's over at the courthouse, there's a lot of traffic, a lot of people moving around at the courthouse, and having the right person in the right position in the right place makes the difference.
Yeah.
So, and that's one of the things that cabinets is not cabinets, but Sexton has been able to help us with, is being able to touch on those things, and kind of like the one incident, what I like about him. And that's the thing of trying to tell people, is that, hey, we're human, we're going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
But what a difference comes in at, when you make a mistake, just say, hey, look, man, my bad. And that's Sexton. Hey, my bad. I was wrong, I made a mistake. you know, but this is, we got it straightened out, and let's move forward.
Yeah.
And that's what we have to be. That's the kind of mentality we have to have. So yeah, I have to tell you, I'm real pleased and proud with the group that I have. Everybody talks about the sheriff, or they talk about the leaders, or about this. I don't care who you are or where you sit. You're no better, or your accomplishments come from the people who
Yes.
helped get you there. And whenever you lose sight of that, that's when your problems come. And that's why it's never about me. It's the people who come in that work with me, and those are the reason that you see change. It's not just me. It's the folks that I've been blessed to be able to bring on board. That's where the real change is at.
Oh, yes, and it is, you know, you have the power to hire or fire anybody, and it's you being there, and when you have an issue with a deputy, you taking it up with them or getting rid of them when it's a big enough issue or whatever. We've noticed that you know.
That's the one part about the job that I even when I was as the chief deputy, that was the one part of the job that I hated was terminating people, because sometimes you feel like when you have to terminate somebody, sometimes it's kind of like feel like you may have failed a little bit, because your whole goal is to be able to help people, be able to progress from one stage to the next stage. And when you end up having to separate employment, sometimes you do feel sometimes like, man, where did I go wrong? What did I miss out on? And then, but that's the one part of the job that I don't like, because I want to be family. The people that work with me, I try to know them, know their families, know the things that they like and they don't like. Try to know the things when they're having issues. I like to be able to walk up in the room and be able to feel if there's tension. Mm-hmm. And the only way to do that, you got to build relationships. Yeah. And so that's what I try to do with my people. So when you go and have to terminate someone or separate with them, it's pretty rough. But it's a necessity. It's a necessity. It's a part that has to take place in some case. Yeah.
As far as crime in the county, are there any hot spots where it's?
I mean, when you start looking at our crime, when I say hot spots, we've got certain parts of the county that we have more crime over here at one point, then it'll shift over here. I don't ever want to
nowhere where it sticks though. Okay.
Yeah. We've got places. There are some communities that we have more calls in than we do with others. But what I try not to do, I try not to label communities, because the same issue that this community is having today could easily overnight switch and would be over in this community over here. But what I do like to say is that we have seen an increase in our crimes in the county, and as growth continues to take place here in Polk County, that is going to grow. It's going to continue to happen. My prayers is that we continue to be able to be more proactive than reactive. Reactiveness very rarely brings about change. Proactiveness generally will help bring about change. And proactiveness means community policing, more patrols, more visibility, more interacting in the communities, and not just because of a call, whether it be call for service or 911, but just simply because, hey, look, we're in here for Public Safety Day, where we bring out equipment and set up things for the kids, and where they can come out and interact with the law enforcement and see the cars and Hummers. Those type of things help bring about change.
That's what I was gonna say. Maybe in those hot spots, do something.
And that is one of the big things. If we're able to start doing some proactive things, such as doing some of the communities out there around the lake and Alaska, they had like a public safety night. They call and say, hey, look, we want to have a public safety night. Can you guys help us out with that? We'll take Hummers, our boat, and different things in the command center, we'll set it up, and then the community will come through and walk through, and we'll have somebody there to be able to explain to them what we use these things for, and some of the things like the boat and the command center and different things were purchased with grants, and we get to talk about, you know, how we apply for the grants, and that we're able to get those things and be able to help us to be able to better do our jobs, whether it be by visibility, even our different drones that we have. Those things help, but those things help. But what has to happen is that we have to have communities who are willing to want to come in, and that's where my job is be able to reach out to those communities and start working on them. I'm gonna stop using that old excuse, well, COVID this, COVID that. Well, that's COVID's behind us. Now we have to start moving forward with these different communities and say, hey, look, what about a public safety day? Hey, let's have a cleanup day, and say, hey, look, you pick the day, pick a Saturday, and let's try to pump it up in the community and say, hey, look, on this day we want to have a cleanup day, or we can talk to the different officials in that precinct. We'll bring inmates out. We can't come on your private property, but if we can pick up trash in the ditches and different things like that. But you got trash, in your yard, you bag it up, set it outside. We come through, we pick it up and take it up to a dumpster that may be up in the front, and help them start building pride in their community, and then let them know that we want to be a part of it, and not always about coming out there with red lights and sirens, but just because we care, So those are some of the plans that we want to look at doing as well.
I believe we have a very humble sheriff. If you're holding a community event and you would like to include the sheriff's department, give the sheriff's department a call, and they will bring out cars and trucks and all kinds of stuff for the kids and take part in the community event. Let's get back to our talk with the sheriff.
I like the ideas. I see this Citizens Academy helping with the small groups here and there, but I like the idea of getting out there and actually going to the communities and letting people meet their
that's right.
protectors.
Well, I started. Not my idea. I started using this from a constable friend of mine from down in Harris in Montgomery County. That they use down there as their partners. We are community service partners, and that we all, regardless of where your prospective place, whether you just a member of the association or you live in this community, you should be partners with law enforcement to where we're working together to make sure that the streets stay safe. If you got a street light this side, don't be afraid. Pick the phone up and call and say, hey, look, there's a street light out. Who's responsible, you call that responsible person. Hey, there's a bunch of trash over here, or somebody's tearing at the roads. Pick the phone up and call. We have to be partners and able to try to. It may seem like little small things, but those are the things that start to erode our neighborhoods when we start letting street lights stay out. We start letting people destroy our roads and ditches where the water won't run off, and it's all because the commissioners are out there doing their part. We got to do our part to keep the people from going out and destroying what they've done.
Right.
So these guys that are taking these ATVs and destroying the work that the commissioners are doing, we got to do our part to make for sure that we're catching those folks and holding them accountable. Because in the end, it makes our communities look bad. And so, but if we become community partners and pick the phone up and say, hey, look, man, over here this is happening, or hey, look, over here there's a bunch of trash. Can you help us with trying to get that cleaned up? That proactiveness, that's to me is where things makes change. It becomes a difference.
And that's probably another thing, a big thing that has changed in the years is the pride in the community.
Yeah.
It just seems like there's not as much as there used to be. At least not in the smaller, when you break it down.
And definitely that's a fact. Because if you walk around certain communities, you see how they're kind of going down because that lack of pride. But that's what we have to get together, and it's start working with those communities and say, hey, what can we do to help? And sometimes it's going to happen, but somebody in the community is going to have to want to be a part of that. It may, like I said, if it's just one that starts out and say, hey, what about this? And maybe the next one will say, see us doing something, say, oh yeah, I want to come in, I want to help. And then hopefully it'll grow, it'll become infectious, and it'll spread from one community to the next community. And just then start seeing the change. And I always believe in that. If you have pride in yourself, then that even brings about a change in yourself. You have pride in community, you have pride in your property, you go through it and you'll see the yards are clean and there, and that change will make a difference. I believe that. Something in the scripture says is order thy footsteps. You know, you start out in that way, it'll help order your footsteps for the rest of the day. Yeah, yeah, I believe that. Little things that a lot of times add up to a lot bigger things.
I like the ideas you talk about. I like to see them, you know.
I've been tossing something around, me and some of the guys, some of the executive staff here, we're looking at possibly trying to build or start a community, how you say, well, we bring some of the different communities from around the county together and have them to where we are able to sit and talk every 3 months, to where we say, okay, over on your part of the county, you live over on this side of the county, and you live in this, what are the things that you see that we can do better? A lot of times, we've always been a little hesitant of that because, you know, you sometimes you hate to have the finger pointed at you, you hate to be called out where you're falling short. But if you're going to change, if you're really serious about wanting to make change, and sometimes you got to be shown, you know, where you're falling short. So that's one of the things me and my chief been talking about, that for 23 is starting that little committee and just see what happens. I mean, I have to admit, I mean, it's a little, you know, even talking about it, you know, to trying to talk about, you know, forming it, it's kind of nerve-wracking because, yeah, you know, if you're really serious about it, you're gonna call on people who
we're gonna be honest with you.
yeah, they're gonna come and say, hey, y'all not doing this, you're not doing that, and but
that's what you need.
If you're serious about making change, so it's you probably me and my chief been talking about it. Really hadn't, other than the few here in the office, hadn't said anything to anybody else, you know, outside the office about it, because a lot of times, you know, that's not a big, it's not a favorite committee, and not one that's always always wanted. I see that's one of my a friend of mine. He's a constable down in Precinct 3 in Houston, in Harris County, and he formed one, and he told me, he said, sometimes it can get a little hairy, but the one thing that you can say, like he told me, is that if you can get people to come in, you can get them to sit down at the table. Even if they are upset or feel like that they have been cut short, if you can get them sitting at the table and start talking, a lot of times you can talk about what the differences are and how do we fix them. Sometimes some of the things are maybe out of our control. Sometimes it may not be something that we can fix, you know, immediately. But at least we can come together and start talking about how we go forward on trying to make change. And so that's the kind of thing that kind of sunk in when he said that. And so me and the chief, we're going to try it and see what happens. I think it'll be good. One of the areas of the county that I really, and we have a deputy assigned there now, is the north end of the county. The north end of the county is underrepresented when it comes down to sheriff's office representation. Then, you know, I can come up with a bunch of excuses, you know, shorthanded. All my crimes are down here. I need to have the manpower down here, but regardless of all of that, still need to be able to have some representation on that north end. And so we were able to get a grant, finally, thank the Lord, where I was able to take a position that was inventory. It was the evidence and inventory officer procurement, take that officer and put that officer on the streets, put him up in court and hire a civilian to do that job and pay him that civilian through a grant. And so now, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 or 6 or something like that, we're able to actually have a north end deputy. That's assigned to the north end. It has nothing to do with the south end. We're not taking anything away from the precincts or districts here where we have the majority of our calls. We have an officer up there, and so one of my desires is to hopefully be able to bring a second one on to where we can be able to have day and an evening, or a morning and an evening over into the night's representation, where those officers can go up there, and they are assigned to the north end. That's one of the things I'm kind of proud that we was able to get that one guy, and just working on now trying to figure out how to get a second one. But that's kind of been one of the things you've been wanting to do for the longest time, and just hadn't had the manpower. But I never forgot that was a promise I made, and it was one that is well deserved, because they deserve to have the representation.
Right.
Regardless of your excuses and all these other things, they deserve to have the representation. So, I'm kind of proud of that. So we're steadily fighting, you know, as I say, we're steadily fighting the good fight, trying to figure out how to bring about effective change. Change is okay, but it just needs to be effective. It needs to be good, because the wrong kind of change does nothing but just put you deeper in a hole. But if it's effective, good change, then everybody grows from it. Not just one individual or one group, everybody grows. So, kind of proud of that.
So we've definitely noticed there's been a lot of change all over Polk County.
You know, and again, I can't let it rest just on me. The commissioners and the judge and them are doing their part, because, you know, I only concern myself with the sheriff's office. The commissioners court and the judge, they have to juggle all the different divisions of the county. And so with their help, a lot of things, you know, we've been able to do, you know, funding, the raises. Man, the raises made a big difference when, you know, they got the 10% increase. It made a big difference.
Oh, yeah.
And so with their help, as we continue to move forward, I think that we'll even be able to see even greater things. It can't be the sheriff's office. It can't certainly be just completely about the sheriff. But I think if we all work together, I think that effective change will continue to manifest. At least that's what I'm hoping. That's my prayer.
I think you're right. You know, I like the idea of getting, you know, the more the community interacts with the police, and it's not just about police action, the better that relationship is going to be.
Yeah, you know, and that's, you know, like I say, that's why I started doing like I said earlier, the Easter egg hunts and the trunk or treats and the movies at night. You know, we do that twice a year for the kids. Christmas is the big one, and and it costs the sheriff's office nothing. Me and my wife, along with other vendors, different, you know, home health and the nursing homes and hospice groups, they come out, and man, they help fund it, you know, totally. And because they bought in, they understand that we have to be able to come together and work together to make our streets safer. And I don't want kids, I don't want communities to feel like it's just them over there and us over here.
Right.
So unless you invite somebody into the house, or at least into your yard, what better way of showing that, hey, look, I want to make a difference? What better way to show that, hey, we're friendly, we're your friends. Come up here and let's have an Easter egg hunt here at the sheriff's office. Come up here and let's sit down and in a manageable way where everybody's safe, and let's sit down and watch a movie, feed the kids hot dogs, and have door prizes, and it costs the parents and the communities nothing.
Yeah.
That's, you know, when people start seeing that, you know, some people may think that's a little thing, but really it's a big thing to some people, because they always felt like it was them and
Yeah.
us. So.
Yeah, and I thought about coming and doing a little story on the movie night and everything. I just don't want. I know your officers are good and everything. I just don't want to come out here. There's still a lot of people in the community that think I'm just out here trying to agitate y'all, and I don't want to come out here and then them feel like they need to stand up for y'all, and then there's an issue, especially on like children's movie night or something.
Yeah. You know, maybe that's one of the things we need to work on then. On the next one we do something like that, is that certainly I'm not doing it for publicity.
Right.
And I don't want it to be about publicity, and I don't want it to be about whether or not,
But
I want people to know that, hey,
you need that publicity to get it, make it grow.
That it's not about, the sheriff's office. We were just a staging place. It wasn't about us. It was about all the other vendors who were here. It was about the communities that showed up. It's about them. It's not about the sheriff's office. All we want to do is be that catalyst till we start bringing people together to see that we're not that far apart.
Yeah.
We can all sit down and watch the movie that was shown that night and laugh, and Polar Express, and laugh and have a good time. Serve hot dogs and drinks and popcorn, and we all enjoy. We're not that far apart.
Yeah.
We can come together and do that.
I was really surprised. I can't believe how many people showed up for the parade.
Oh man!
I was gonna do something on that, but of course the rain. I was like,
yeah.
no, I'm not gonna ruin any equipment.
And that's awesome. If we can all come together and do something like that, what else can't we come together
Yeah.
and accomplish?
I was amazed at the turnout for the parade because
And
it's pouring
storming. I mean,
and people are just out there all over the road.
storming.
I was like, okay.
Man, I was like a wet rat. And I was like, I didn't think nobody was gonna be there. But when we got down by the pawn shop, both sides of the road just packed with people. I was like, wow. So then, if they will come out in weather like that,
Yeah.
we'll make sure we was gonna be there. And I was so thankful for all those different exhibits and floats and bands that showed up and stuck in there. I think I put on that Polk County Strong, because it just makes you feel like, man, that's great. Because they showed up, and everybody who had entered into that parade, they stayed and they came through. And it was a blast.
Yeah, it was
Wet, but it was a blast.
It was a good turnout and that just showed there is still, even though there might be some pride lost in individual pieces of the community, as far as the community as a whole, there's still a huge pride in it.
Huge deal of pride. And then, like I said, if we can come together and accomplish that, then we can come together even in these little, I won't call them little problems, and these problems that we're having plaguing certain communities, we can come together and fix those too. It's not going to happen overnight, because they didn't get like that overnight. But I think if we come together, I think that we can at least start trying to come to the root of what it is, and then start building from there to try to make a difference.
Right.
I hate to say, what I try to say is that a lot of times with our younger groups, if we start working with our younger groups where we change their perceptions, their ideology about what their pride should be or based on, or even what they think that law enforcement's role should be in their communities, a lot of times they help us change the adults. If we can have it where the kids feel comfortable to run up to the police again and hug them, or want to shake hands or give them 5. If we can do that, then sometimes that even breaks down the walls. That even breaks down the walls, with the families, with the parent. If we can get the kids, and so I think that's kind of one of the reasons I started doing the movies and different things for the kids and the Easter egg hunt, because if I can get the kids to come in and they start liking law enforcement, they want to be here and they want to go there, then the parents gonna have to come with them.
Yeah.
And then that gives me an open door, at least gives me access to them. And then little by little, we start making effective change. And like I said, it may not be but one family, one community, but each time we're gonna be trying to make that little bit of change. And it may not, I may not see it in my time, but it may be something in my grandkids or my kids. They'd be able to see a difference.
What was your turnout for the movie night?
I'll say this, we served about 370 hot dogs, And so serving 370 hot dogs, I'd probably say maybe 220,
Yeah,
230, somewhere around there.
that's pretty good though.
And so, I was pleased.
What is that? Was that your third one?
This is the third one.
Yeah.
It was our third one. And so I was pleased, So like I said, if it's just, we're looking at different avenues. So one of the things we kind of talked about is trying to work with some of the HOAs, and even with picking different locations where we can go out and lease, and then move and say, hey, we're gonna have movie night here, and we're gonna be at this location. The movie's gonna still, just like before, it's gonna be free. Then we'll have door prizes and different things, but we'll start moving it around. So we got it kicked off here, but it doesn't keep us from having it, at a different.
Yeah.
It doesn't keep us from going out to Indian Springs and having one in Indian Springs as well. It doesn't keep us from going to Goodrich or Blanchard or Onalaska and having it in those communities. It doesn't preclude us from going to Corrigan as well and be able to have a movie night in Corrigan. It's just, this was the jumping off place, and we got it started. Now we take it and let it branch out, and say some community may say, hey, we want to do a movie night for the kids. Will you be involved? Yeah, we're gonna be there, and we go up and we want to start making those different changes. We just have to have somebody willing to want to come on board and become a partner, and then set the stage and let's run with it.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea. I do see how I no offense to your predecessor, but you have done a lot more to reach out to the community than your predecessor.
My predecessor, and I'll say this, my predecessor helped me to be where I am today. The voters voted me in, but my predecessor, he instilled a lot into me. Everybody has their own leadership style. His leadership style, he gave me the leadership style that I needed to put with what I have to help me become the person I am. I think that God puts people in places for a season. He was in 16 years.
Yeah.
And in that 16 years from where he started to where he ended, there were a lot of great things that were done.
Oh yeah.
I just think that every season has different, objectives and different pitfalls and different peaks, different valleys. And I think that now that I'm in, regardless of how long I'm in this season, I think that God has different valleys and different peaks and objectives for me to be able to accomplish, just like he did for Sheriff Hammock. And again, not about me, but about the community, about Polk County. All the other things, and I'll say this, some people look at me strange. I'm proud to be the first black sheriff of Polk County, because it shows, when we talk about effective change, it shows change. I'm proud of that, very proud of that. But I don't never want it to be just about Byron Lyons or the black sheriff of Polk County. I want it to be about Polk County. I want it to be about Polk County's change, not about my change or the change that Byron brought about. It's a change that Polk County has made for itself, to where you see where we came from to where we are and where we're going. And
Right.
we'll never be able to go forward if we hung up about one individual. It has to be about Polk County.
Absolutely.
There you go, folks. That's our sheriff, Byron Lyons, here in Polk County, wanting to reach out with the community, get things done as a community. He doesn't want there to be a line that is not a them and us, it's just us. And he wants to see that happen. I think we can make it happen. Until next time, stay free, America. Out.